Καλησπέρα σας. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ που είστε μαζί μας. Είμαι η Ελένη. Θα ήθελα να ευχαριστήσουμε αρχικά το Ecover για την υποστήριξη της διερμηνείας στην ελληνική νοηματική. Τα προϊόντα καθαρισμού Ecover είναι vegan friendly και παράγονται από βιοδιασπώμενα συστατικά φυτικής προέλευσης. Η ομιλία που θα παρακολουθήσουμε μέσω Zoom έχει τίτλο Plant-Based Treaty Campaign for Menu Change, Not Climate Change. Η ομιλία θα κάνει η Anita Krajnc. Είναι Global Campaign Coordinator for Plant-Based Treaty, co-founder of Toronto Pig Save, executive director of the Animal Save movement. We are ready to hear you, Anita. Thank you.
Thank you. Bearing witness means going to a site of injustice and coming as close as you can and trying to help. Toronto Pig Save started in 2011 when I adopted Mr. Bean, the dog that you see in the photos. And we walked on Lakeshore in downtown Toronto and saw the pigs in the trucks. So we decided to hold 3 vigils a week. So we started holding vigils in front of the slaughterhouse. And basically we wanted people to think about why love one but eat the other. A lot of people love animals, are compassionate to animals, but they don't realize that pigs, cows, and chickens are the same. They're individuals, just like we are, and dogs and cats. So one of the things that the vigils did was show that all the animals in the trucks are individuals and they have rights and they deserve respect. And so we promoted diet change and veganism, but we also promoted activism. The idea that we all have a duty to bear witness. So when there is something wrong in your community, like the existence of a slaughterhouse, it's important to find the location of the slaughterhouse and to organize vigils and show the community what is happening. So these are some of the photos that we took at the vigils. And you see the pigs are very frightened and they're pleading for help. A lot of the animals are injured, they're abused, they're sad. And outside of this truck is a park. And this is the first time the pigs have seen light, because in the factory farms where they are raised in the dark most of the time. So at the vigils, people come right up to the trucks and they touch the animals. And later on, we started giving water to the pigs. Not right away, but then somebody at one vigil gave fruit to the animals, and they really liked the watermelon. And then we started giving water to the pigs. So we also started doing vigils for the cows. There were 2 cow slaughterhouses in Toronto. And the cows are terrified and they can smell blood 5 miles away. They have a really strong sense of smell. And they are very afraid with all the industrial noise, the sounds, and the sights. We often see very injured and abused animals on the trucks with blood. They're often prodded with electric prods and hit. So here you see a photo in 2013 when we started giving water to the animals. And you can see they're foaming at the mouth. They're very thirsty. So we've been holding vigils for 10 years, and then we switched to focus on plant-based food policy as well. So we launched an initiative called the Plant-Based Treaty. And if you have your phone on you, if you don't mind pointing your phone at the QR code, it will take you to the homepage where you can endorse the treaty as an individual. So please, take a moment to do that. So the Plant-Based Treaty has a mission of switching to a plant-based food system so that we can live within our planetary boundaries and reforest the earth. In this presentation, I will talk about the planetary boundaries. Climate is just one, but there are 8 other planetary boundaries. There are also sustainable development goals that we focused on using an approach called donut economics. Our vision is to have a global plant-based treaty at the UN framework, as part of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. And our values incorporate deep ecology, which means respect for animals and nature, climate justice, a democratic system, diversity, equity and inclusion, and a globally representative team and leadership development. We have 5 programs as part of the Plant-Based Treaty. The first one is collecting endorsements or sign-ups. It's like a petition, like signing up for the Plant-Based Treaty. And our theory of change is we need to collect endorsements to create bottom-up pressure for a global agreement. So we collect endorsements from individuals, groups, businesses, and cities to create pressure for a global agreement. Our second program is Plant-Based Treaty City Program. We have 30 cities around the world who have already signed the Plant-Based Treaty, including 3 European capitals, Edinburgh in Scotland, Belfast in Ireland and Northern Ireland, and Amsterdam in the Netherlands. We also have a program called Menu Change, Not Climate Change, which focuses on menu change in cafes, restaurants, universities, hospitals, and so forth. A fourth program is advocacy or lobbying at global climate talks. So we have United Nations observer status, and we go to the COPs. Those are the Conference of the Parties. Those are the annual global climate talks that take place in November and December. We also go to Bonn, Germany. So every June, they have meetings in between the global COPs or the global negotiations. And then finally, we have trainings and capacity building. So you could go to our Plant-Based Treaty YouTube channel, and there is a playlist for trainings. So there are 3 parts to the Plant-Based Treaty. And we basically duplicated what the fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty has. It has 3 principles. So there's another initiative in 2017 that we discovered 3 years ago, and we were inspired by them. So what they're doing for fossil fuels. So we wanted to do something for plant-based policy. So the first principle is relinquish. Second is redirect. Third is restore. So relinquish just means don't make the problem worse. So no new slaughterhouses, no new deforestation for expanded animal agriculture, no new animal farms. So don't make the problem worse. The second principle is redirect. So this means using political and economic tools like subsidies, taxes, regulations, public information campaigns to promote a transition to a plant-based food system. The third core principle is restore. This is about rewilding, reforestation. It's about food security in order that we, protect our key ecosystems. So I mentioned planetary boundaries. So we have 9. One is climate, and that's where there's a lot of political interest. There's a recognition that we have a climate emergency. So in the IPCC, it's an Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. They did their 6th assessment report, and these were some of the findings. They said it was code red for humanity, that we will reach 1.5 degrees Celsius warming by 2030 and 2 degrees by 2040. And this would be catastrophic if this happens. And part of the problem is we have a methane emergency, and a lot of the methane comes from animal farming. And all 3 greenhouse gases are accelerating, or the emissions are going up and up and up. So that includes carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and methane. So the example of methane, 32% of all methane is generated by animal agriculture, as you can see here in the brown. And it's even more when you count food waste, because a lot of the food waste is from meat, dairy, and eggs. And I'll just show you here. And so it's actually more, but it's more than a third. So we need to quickly phase out animal farming and fossil fuels to address the methane emergency. And it's very important to focus on methane in the near term. And there's a quote here from the lead reviewer of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Durward Zalke says, cutting methane is the biggest opportunity to slow warming between now and 2040. I wanted to show you this figure, which is on tipping points. And the blue bar is 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius warming. This is what we need to avoid. And we are heading towards 1.5. And these are tipping points that would be reached between 1.5 and 2. So Greenland ice sheet collapse, there's a high risk of that being a tipping point at 1.5 degrees Celsius. West Antarctica ice sheet collapse, again, 1.5 degrees Celsius. You see some of the other ones, like at the bottom here, you see East Antarctica ice sheet collapse. That would lead to dozens of meters of sea level rise. It's a high risk of tipping at over 7 degrees Celsius here, because you see the temperatures here, 2 degrees, 4 degrees, 6 degrees, 8 degrees. But look at all the tipping points that are in danger of crossing the threshold at 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius. Northern permafrost abrupt thaw, 1.5 degrees Celsius. So what this figure shows is that the 1.5 degrees Celsius target is a physical limit, not just a political target. So it's very important to do all we can to avoid 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius warming. Global food systems are responsible for a lot of the global warming. Even if we got rid of fossil fuels today, our food system alone would take us past 1.5 to 2 degrees warming in the next couple decades. Here it says in the second bullet, the global food system will go emitting from 4 gigatons to 5 gigatons carbon in the next 2.5 decades. And that the global food system is responsible for more than a third of all greenhouse gas emissions. With respect to methane, 54% or more than half of the methane emissions come from the food system when you count the 36% from animals, the 10% from rice, and the 8% from food waste. As you can see, most of the methane is coming from animals raised. That's 36%. But the food system as a whole is responsible for more than half of methane emissions. One thing here is like the global food system impacts all the planetary boundaries, and it is responsible for transgressing or breaching 5. So let me just show you the next slide. So here you see the planetary boundaries here in the red on the outside. So climate is one of the 9 planetary boundaries, but the other ones include biosphere or biodiversity, land use change, fresh water use, and then here, nitrogen and phosphorus. Then these 3 that are in white, they're not yet in the red. They have not yet been breached, but they're heading that way. So ocean acidification is approaching the red zone. Atmospheric aerosol loading, that's like particles, that's also approaching the red. The only one that's going in a positive direction is ozone layer, and it's being repaired. So this is what is called a donut. So on the outside are the ecological ceilings, and then on the inside are the social foundations or UN Sustainable Development Goals. So for the plant-based treaty, we put measures that focus on food on the inside. So food security, education, health, honest labeling, like carbon labeling, financing, plant-based food systems, reforestation, greening cities, food justice, land equity, indigenous protection, banning live exports. So as you can see, we sort of use the 3 R's. And Kate Raworth, she came up with a donut economics concept. She published a book by that title in 2017, and she is vegan now as well. So it's not just about the climate. The planetary boundaries also are about land use. Currently, we use more than 4 billion hectares of land for farming. Most of it is for animal farming. So here you can see pastures, almost 3 billion. Animal feed, 500 million. Human food, 704. So if everyone went vegan, in terms of the human population, we could reduce land use from over 4 billion to 1 billion. So I asked the audience, what is the human population? And what is the farmed animal population on the planet? How many land animals are killed each year for food? And how many fishes are killed? So there are about 8 billion people. How many animals are killed every year? 92 billion. So to feed 92 billion animals, we're using that 3 billion hectares of land. So if everyone went vegan, we would not be doing that. So this chart shows per capita meat consumption in the world. So it's gone up from 30 kilograms per person to 45 kilograms. So it's only going up and up and up. So we really have to address the consumption of meat, dairy, and eggs. because it's affecting all our planetary boundaries. The Plant-Based Treaty has been endorsed by a number of Nobel laureates, including Klaus Hasselmann, who won the 2021 prize for reliably predicting global warming. And these are some of the other Nobel laureates that have endorsed the Plant-Based Treaty. One of the things that we focus on is the planetary boundaries, the animals, but also health. So one of our advisors is Dr. Zara Kassam from Plant-Based Canada, and she said the increasing burden of chronic disease, including in children, is a result of the consumption of meat, dairy, and eggs. It has negative health impacts, and it's a leading risk factor for mortality globally. And that plant-based diets are important for the prevention, treatment, and reversal of chronic disease. And many international organizations and medical clinical guidelines support a plant-based diet for prevention and management of chronic disease. Dr. Zara Kassam's sister, Dr. Shireen Kassam, founded plant-based health professionals in the United Kingdom. And she and her team developed a plant-based Eat Well guide. So this plate is a fully plant-based plate and shows what you need in each category of food. So this includes fruit and vegetables. This includes carbohydrates. Down here you can see plant-based alternatives for dairy products. And then here you can see protein, beans, pulses, nuts, seeds, and plant protein. And the Eat Well guide is the dietary guidelines for the United Kingdom. And it isn't fully plant-based. So what Dr. Shireen Kassam and her team did was to make it fully plant-based and show what it would look like. Canada has one of the best nutritional guidelines. Our guidelines in Canada are 87.5% plant-based, and a glass of milk has been replaced by a glass of water in our guidelines. So our strategy is to collect endorsements to help pressure governments to negotiate a global agreement. And what we've done so far is we talked about, okay, what is our grand strategic objective? We want to develop a plant-based food system so that we can live within our planetary boundaries. And we talked about the 3 R's, how we want to avoid the problem getting worse, how we want to redirect policy instruments, how we want to restore and reforest the earth. So under each of these R's, you can have hundreds of campaigns and hundreds of nonviolent tactics. So some of our campaigns include Stop Octopus Farming, plant-based universities, plant-based cities, community gardening, reforesting, food giveaways. And if you go to the homepage, you can endorse the Plant-Based Treaty as an individual, a group, business, and city. You could be as a city councilor and so forth. So that's what it looks like if you're on your phone and you go to the homepage. Again, here's the QR code. So if you don't mind going on your phone and going to plantbasedtreaty.org or just pointing at the QR code, if you could just take a moment now and endorse the treaty, that would be fantastic. So we often do outreach to collect endorsements at Veg Fest, at climate marches, and other events. And we have this goal of gaining 1 million individuals, 10,000 groups, 10,000 businesses in 50 cities. So far we have 250,000 people who have signed and over 3,000 groups and businesses in 30 cities. And these are some examples of groups that have endorsed the treaty. So you could see that we have some student groups, Fridays for Future, some chapters of Greenpeace and Friends of the Earth, a lot of animal groups. And then these are some of the celebrities that have endorsed. So Sir Paul McCartney and his two daughters, Mary and Stella McCartney, endorsed. And you see Joaquin Phoenix there as well. The cities that have endorsed, Amsterdam and Edinburgh, for example, have introduced meaningful measures. Like in Amsterdam, they have vegan Fridays in public institutions. They also are introducing vegan options in all public institutions. And they're hosting an annual plant-based conference with our plant-based treaty team in Amsterdam. In Edinburgh, the capital of Scotland, they are introducing dozens of measures, and they categorize them in terms of menu change, education, food waste, and cooperating with other cities, including sister cities and European cities. And one of the things that they're doing right now is carbon labeling in universities. Exmouth is a seaside town in the United Kingdom. They endorsed last year. They are engaging in public education campaigns and 100% plant-based catering. They have also, one of the counselors has introduced a vegan potluck once a month. And they say, bring a non-vegan friend, and they show films and are building community. Lambeth has introduced fruit and vegetable vouchers, and also they're promoting Veganuary. New York City Mayor Eric Adams has passed a proclamation supporting the plant-based treaty. We're still working on the city to endorse. They have more than 50 council members. So we're trying to get the city of New York City to endorse, but New York City is a leader in plant-based policy. So on the slide here, you can see their campaign, Eat a Whole Lot More Plants. So Mayor Eric Adams had type 2 diabetes, and he reversed it with a whole foods plant-based diet. And he promised that because he got well with a plant-based diet, he would promote it among his constituents. So New York City is doing a lot of things. Like they have already meatless Mondays in schools, and they added plant-powered Fridays, and they have 1 million students in schools in New York City. They're also serving plant-based food at all events for the mayor. They have consumption-based inventories for greenhouse gases. So this is different from production-based inventories. So for consumption, you're looking at how New York City is responsible for all the food it consumes and all the emissions that come from it, and not just production. So production is, where the dairy farms are or where the factory farms are, and, in the rural areas that are producing emissions. But he wanted to also look at, what is the city responsible for? One of the most exciting things they're doing is default plant-based in hospitals. So they have 11 public hospitals, and they've introduced plant-based by default. That means when you go to the hospital, you're offered a plant-based meal. And if you say no, then they offer you another plant-based meal. And then if you say no again, then they offer you meat, dairy, and eggs. So the uptake was 60%. If you look at the population of vegans, it's just 2%. But in New York City hospitals, 60% eat a plant-based meal because of this policy. And there's also savings in costs. And the satisfaction is over 90%. People are very happy with that. And when you go home from the hospital, they provide you with literature, including recipes for plant-based food. They've also expanded their lifestyle medicine program, which emphasizes plant-based food. The last slide is they also have plant-based policy and incentives like vouchers and things like that. I just wanted to say a little bit about carbon labeling. So we work with a group called Climato, spelt with a K, and they're working with the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. And this is what carbon labeling looks like. So some meals are very low, and that would be a plant-based meal. And then there's medium, and then there's high and very high, some meals. And what they try to show is that you can eat 10 vegan burgers, excuse me, for the same climate cost as an average beef burger. And it's very important to provide that climate labeling. If you go to our website, you will see playbooks of best practices, and we're developing them for many different institutions. Excuse me. So one of our most important campaigns is the city campaign. And so we can provide you with a template motion. So if you write a letter to your counselor, and I will show you how to do that on our website, we can provide a template motion for the council to consider. We also have a safe and just report, which has a lot of information about the climate and the solutions. So for next steps, please consider endorsing the plant-based treaty on the homepage, plantbasedtreaty.org. Please send an email action to your counselors to endorse. Please join the plant-based treaty team in Greece. Contact Romanos at greece@plantbasedtreaty.org. So I just wanted to show you the website where you can send an email action. And I wanted to thank Romanos for helping us develop that page and translating into Greek. So let me just show you that now. So if you go to the Plant-Based Treaty website, plantbasedtreaty.org, it is translated into a number of languages, and it might be translated into Greece. So let me just see Greek. I'm not sure, but okay. So we have if you go to the Act Now, you go to cities, you go to Europe, and you go to Europe. Then you can go to Greek. Then you can go to the Greek page. So let's just go to the Greek page, and there you can write an email action to your counselors. So 109 people have done that already. So you just fill out your name, your city, your country, and then it has a letter pre-written, but you can edit it if you want to say something about yourself. You can write over here. You can have an introduction. If you personalize the letter, it has much greater impact. So please consider personalizing the letter. Then if you fill it out, it will show you all the counselors in your city, and then you add your voice, and then it asks you to share with your friends and family. So if you could take a minute right now just to do this email action, it will be incredibly helpful. So I'll stop sharing now and just see if anyone has any comments or questions. Yeah, thank you.
It's a little bit difficult to have questions, so unless there's someone who would really like to ask something. Is there anyone who has a question to pose to Anita? Okay.
Okay, thanks very much.